In your book, you quote a scripture. Very impressive, by the way. You quote a scripture. I think it's Luke 28. Am I right?
Luke 12,
Yeah,
verse
Luke 12.
48.
Yeah. I mean, you can see where I come in terms of.
It's Luke.
It's Luke.
Yeah.
It's one of the gospels, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you talk about to whom much is given, much is required. And then I want to juxtapose it with Bite Size 23, where you talk about giving freely makes you luckier. Any insights around that?
Yeah. So I think generosity and kindness are values that we overlook, because they seem quite commonplace, table stakes. Of course, people should be generous. Of course, we must be kind. But honestly, when we decide to give off of ourselves, we gain so much in return. When you have a coaching conversation with somebody about something they're struggling with, you reflect on your own challenges in life. You also put yourself in their shoes. And, empathy is such a superpower when you're leading, because your ability to just always remember that it's not about you. This is not about you. Put your ego over there. Self-esteem is your friend. Self-esteem is your birthright. It helps you navigate life. It helps you build healthy relationships. But when your ego gets in the way, you become quite self-centered and quite self-absorbed, and you think about quid pro quo, return for everything that I give. But if you give freely, the kind of energy that you radiate and the kind of energy you get back is actually quite positive. And people become champions, they become ambassadors of the movement that you've created. And if it's a movement of giving, a movement of serving others, you will see this movement come back to serve you. So your tribe is these like-minded people that gravitate towards the same kind of energy. Yeah. And I believe that you actually do create it. It does manifest over time. And when you sit back and reflect on how you've impacted people's lives, you will realize that at some point you made a choice that is not about you. It's about serving. It's about sharing what you know. And honestly, I find that being kind and being generous makes you lucky. People want to help you.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to ask one last question, and then I'm going to hand over to the crowd. You in our conversations, we have spoken about, and this sounds mundane, putting a CV of your life. Even when you are applying for a job, you are doing a career change, or talk about yourself. And in the opening pages, I mean, that's where I felt Alistair is like telling us who he is. Like everything that he has done, every journey, who has shaped him, the aunts, the community, and everything. And it got me thinking about leadership and this element of vulnerability. So
yeah.
If maybe you can talk about those in terms of telling your life story, even when the headhunter or the recruiter is not asking for those, and this vulnerability concept.
Well, I mean, there's people in the room that I've known since the age of 3 or 4. There's people I was in high school with. There's people I was at varsity with. Now, these are lifelong relationships. And everybody that's part of my orbit, my ecosystem has impacted my life. My perspectives, the things that I know, how I conduct myself, and my value set. But what I realized over, 25 years of interviewing people, recruiting, promoting people, doing assessments, is that very often what ends up in your CV is just a fraction of your life story. And that's not where the magic lies, right? You find that you read a person's CV and you're a little bit underwhelmed. They come into the room, you interview them, you're like, the things you're mentioning are not in your CV. And actually that could have, eliminated you from the process, just at face value. So I think, at first blush, you realize that people are very clinical about what they add to their CV. They have a perception about what looks good to the market. They have a perception about what the world expects of them, and very often that's not the case. So what I try and encourage people to do is think about yourself as a brand. Think about brand identity, brand definition. What is the problem you're solving in society? What do you stand for? What differentiates you from other people? What do people say about you? How do they describe you? How do you introduce yourself? What skills do you have? And I speak about a strong river, has both depth and width. And very often when you look at people's career moves, you'll find that maybe there's quite a lot of breadth, but maybe little depth. What have you learned? What have you improved? What setbacks did you navigate? What did you replicate, and so on. And I think when we're crafting our stories, we neglect, first of all, the entrepreneurial experience you've had at home. I mean, my friend Ben here, he comes from a family of entrepreneurs. He's now an EXCO member at African Bank. But when we were in primary school, both our families had businesses. My friend Patricia here comes from an entrepreneurial background. When we were very young, we were working in family businesses during school holidays, after school. Now that's in the CV because that's where you learn business. That's your first MBA in life. That's how people tell you that they have an MBA. They say, I got the first one when I was working in a family business. Yeah. So that's that, right? And I mean, my friend Molefe, his father's a GP, and he learned about customer experience at a young age. When people come into the practice, I mean, all those things really matter. They impact you, the example you see, the representation that's around you. I started attending graduation parties when I was in primary school. And that memory is deeply etched in my mind. Graduating became a thing to do. It wasn't far-fetched. It wasn't, oh my goodness, do I need this? It was, no, it's a driver's license. So the reason why GIBS is so significant for me is in 2008, Professor Nicola Klein, who used to run GIBS, approached me and said, Ellie, come and do some guest lectures and some talks. And I thought about it. I thought about the work that I had to prepare and put in. And I was young then, I was into clubbing and having fun as one would. And I thought, well, why not? Let me come and do it. I did it. It went well. I got great reviews. She said, please keep coming back. I did a few more. And she said, you're really good at this teaching thing. I don't know if you're aware, but you're driving without a driver's license. So go and get a learner's. And I said, what is a learner's? She said, get a master's. I said, well, I don't need a master's. Things are going pretty well for me. She says, just go get a master's, you'll see. So I went and did an MBA, came back, did some more talks. Again, more business schools became interested. And these are all pro bono talks, by the way. And a few deans said to me, listen, we want you to be adjunct faculty, but you're driving with a learner's, you need a driver's license. I said, but, when you first met me, I had a BCom and an LLB and an MDP and a lot of experience. Why must I accumulate more degrees? And they said, listen, there's something about your ability to teach and your passion for teaching that you might not realize now. And actually, invest in the older you. You might want to take a break from corporate and, be a full-time professor. And for that, you'll need mileage as a teacher. You'll need PhD. You'll need publications. And I said, yes. So I did a PhD. I graduated. I came back. I said, so now what? And then I was invited to University of Johannesburg when they formed the business school to sit on the advisory board, and I was made professor of practice because of the years of teaching and the years of publishing and all of that stuff. And a year or so into that, Northwest University also approached me and said, we want you to sit on our advisory board, and we want to make you extraordinary professor of practice in the field of digital marketing technology. And I sat down and I reflected on the yeses that I said, a couple of years ago. And just, I didn't have the foresight then, but there was something in me that spoke to my need to serve others and to help and to share knowledge. And I mean, all of that was based on pro bono, part-time lecturing, part-time, speaking, and I wasn't creating any new material. I was repurposing what I did at work. Even the PhD that I did was on the impact of digital disruption on business models. I was running the largest advertising agency in the country, and we were pivoting towards being fully integrated and digital first. So the PhD became a cheat sheet for me. I would read 3 or 4 articles during the day. I'd read another 5 at night. So in a week, I'd read about 50 articles. So in 2.5 years, the PhD was done when I was running an organization of 1,000 people with a young family of 2 kids. Not because I don't sleep. I get 6-7 hours sleep every night. But I made a conscious decision about significance and impact being the drivers behind everything that I do. And I needed the answers. I don't believe in winging anything. My MBA was based on the impact of storytelling on advertising effectiveness. Now, anybody will tell you storytelling is much, much more memorable, much more stickier than facts and figures, as important as the latter are. But I needed to crack that code. And it helped me. And we had a prolific run with winning all the awards you can think of. We Agency of the Year, we broke many, many records because we put in the time to understand how humans relate to knowledge, how storytelling really is a key differentiator. but also how do you transform a business model in the digital age when you've got a legacy business and you've got a massive organizational culture to change, and you've got a marketplace that considers you in a certain way, and you want to shift that, and and you want to recalibrate people's association with your brand.
Yeah.
It does take work.